If he can join us, he will. We're going to go ahead and start. There she is. Now she's back. In her fedora. Just like you said, Dina. Hi there.
Oh.
Can you hear us? You look like you froze again. No, you're not frozen.
She's just not moving.
Just jerky. But we can't hear you. At least I can't.
All right. We are on chapter 23, verse 8.
No, we're not. That was last week. We're on 13. 2 weeks ago, we're on 13.
We are.
Hi.
Hi.
Say it again.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. 76 trombones led the big parade.
Yeah, well, I can't talk about my number.
Why?
Because the only connotation I can think of is sexual.
Oh my goodness, we all know how old you are now. like not a secret.
Well, I wasn't kind of keeping it a secret. I just couldn't sing a song about it.
That's right. This is Bible Babble, girls, and we are live. So
yeah, and very uncomfortable for the one male in the room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that.
How is your new apartment, David? First, tell me, how is your new apartment, and how are the girls in school? Happy?
Everyone's happy and fine. Yeah.
Oh, that really. See, girls,
we'll do it.
News you get from your children.
We'll do it talk later.
We're online.
Oh, okay. It's almost like when they came home from school and you say, "How was your day?" Okay.
Yeah.
What did you do?
No, thank God, everyone's good. All right. Chapter 23, verse, what did you say, Dina? 13?
13.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Don't you remember we talked about the difference between Shemitah and Shabbat and the resting?
Yeah.
Be on guard.
It was 2 weeks ago. I just forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot to move my little sticky.
Sweet.
Alrighty.
Be careful.
Sorry, go ahead.
Be careful regarding everything I have said to you. The names of the gods of others you shall not mention, nor shall your mouth cause it to be heard.
Nor shall it become heard through your mouth. You don't hear it with your mouth.
Nor shall your mouth cause it to be heard.
Right.
You don't say.
Oh, I thought. Yeah.
Well, actually, that's an interesting question, because technically it means they shall not be heard on your lips.
Right.
Okay.
This book says that they
now,
shall
what,
not be heard on
what
your
Rashi says, he reads that to mean they shall not be heard from a Gentile. That is, you must not go into partnership with a Gentile who might swear by his God as part of his dealings with you.
Oh.
In effect, this would mean that you had caused that idolatrous name to be mentioned. If you go into business with him and he invokes the name of his God, then by virtue of you being in business with him, you are causing him to mention that idolatrous name.
Well, I've got all sorts of stuff about these idols and stuff. A Jew may not say, "I will meet you near the idol," nor may he go into partnership with a non-Jew on the understanding that in case of a dispute, the Gentile will be required to swear by the name of his idol. That's right. The Rashi piece.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, if we do call, like about what you just said, Dina, I'll meet you at the corner of,
where the idol, at your idol,
deity and the Holy One, right? That you have to use insulting names. The abomination of Moab, the detestable thing of the Ammonites.
Oh,
really? Wow.
This book has a little different slant on chapter 13, on verse 13. Should I read it?
Yeah, go.
Okay, the first clause closes the preceding legislation, which concentrates on human relationship. The second clause opens the final section of the Book of the Covenant, focusing on obligations to God. The prohibition against mentioning the names of pagan gods is relevant because the rest of the section deals with celebrations of the seasonal cycle. The Israelites and their neighbors had seasonal festivals celebrating harvest at the same time of the year. This section thus begins by prohibiting the mention of names of gods to emphasize that Israel's festivals must be devoted to Israel's God alone. Note the emphatic festival for me in the next verse, meaning for me exclusively.
Ah, interesting.
This is a time.
So Sforno says, note the contrast between the two.
What's that?
What's what?
Did
We
you
just
hear
heard like a fire alarm.
Yeah, I heard it.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I'm hearing it.
It's gone now.
No, I'm still hearing it.
Oh, there's another picture up there. Somebody trying to join us.
No. That's Dina. She did something and her photo came up. You
Is it
okay,
better now?
It stopped now. I don't know.
It's okay now.
Yeah. Sforno notes the contrast between the two halves. In the case of all the other commandments of the Torah, one must beware of violating them indeed. But idol worship is so serious that one is forbidden even to speak of idols or be the cause of others mentioning them.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's the thought that counts, right? It's not about doing anything wrong or worshiping the idols. You can't even say their names or cause other people to say their names.
Right. Which gets into that Rashi comment about expecting a non-Jew to take an oath in the name of a different god.
Right.
Also, Sforno adds to that the significance of positioning this prohibition at the conclusion of Mishpatim is to emphasize that whereas all other prohibitions are broken only when one does an action, the prohibition against idolatry is transgressed merely by mentioning the name of the idol and extends to the causing of others to mention the idol's name. That means to idolatry.
You know, you just made me think of how strict we are as Jews about mentioning God's name. And I wonder if there's some sort of connection that could be drawn there that, clearly if we say God's name, it's not idolatry. But I wonder if, because the nature of God is unknowable, is uttering a name, is it possible that uttering a name of God brings us nearer to idolatry in so much as we see the name as an embodiment of God? Right? We start to worship Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, as opposed to God, which is so much bigger than our Father, our King.
So, do you think that naming God limits God?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why my favorite name of God is Hashem, which just means the name, because Hashem is itself not a name.
I understand that, but it does reference the name, the one we're not using because it would limit God.
Right, and what's interesting about the name is that the Yud He Vav He is, I think, intended specifically to be non-limiting, right? Hove, Haya, Hove, Yihiyeh. It's a combination of was, is, will be. By its very definition, it is a non-limited. It is the name itself is infinity, and yet as soon as we say it, as soon as it becomes a part of human language, it is also by definition limiting God, because So for us was okay. What I perceive as infinity. No, let me change that. For me, was, is, and will be is a limited amount of time. Was is as far back as I can remember, even with the help of my ancestors. Is what I currently know, which is very limited, and will be is only as far as I can imagine in the future. But was, is, and will be from God's perspective is that's a whole different level of infinity.
That's
so
true infinity.
It's not measurable, really.
Exactly.
Right. So
that
makes it true infinity.
Right. I can talk about infinity, but as soon as I say the word infinity, I'm not talking about infinity.
I understand.
I don't.
No, you do. No, you do. Yeah.
Well, no.
Just by giving something a name, you sort of outline its individuality. And once you do that, it has borders, it has ends, it's limited.
Right.
It's an individual thingy-ding with a name.
Right. It's very I-it in Buber's language. It's objectifying something. You can't objectify infinity. And so by naming it, you're objectifying it. Like you said, you're giving it boundaries or borders, or you're imagining it as a thing that I can hold in my hand or imagine in my mind, and it's not.
An entity, yeah, a single entity.
So I wonder if one of the reasons why we're not allowed to say God's name is in part because in doing so, we are, as you said, Dina, limiting God and making God one of those other beings that we can commit idolatry with.
All right, so let's take that one step further. Why then, on Yom Kippur, was the high priest allowed to say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
In private, no one else could hear it.
No, actually, the tradition is that everyone heard it. The tradition is that somehow it was amplified so that everybody heard it.
Where was he when he said it?
In the Holy of Holies.
And what is the Holy of Holies?
The place where we meet God, or it's God's dwelling place. Where are you going with that?
I'm just thinking it has something to, he can say the name and it can be amplified and heard because of the place he is in and what that represented to the Jews of that time.
So the place and the time. So this is a four times holy experience. The high priest, the holiest person, on Yom Kippur, the holiest day, in the Holy of Holies, the holiest place, says the holiest name. So there is no holier experience than this, and yet I think Dina's right, that it's still a human being saying an ineffable name.
And I have an issue with it being heard by everybody, because once you've heard something, there's always the possibility or the temptation to say it.
Yeah. When I meet new people, I don't do this, but I tell myself to do it, and I wish I did. When I meet new people, what I really should do is repeat their name back to them, because I'm terrible with names. But after they tell me their name, if I say, "Hi, Jane," or whatever their name is, that I know will help me remember their name. I don't, but I should. But I think that's what you're talking about. We do have an instinct to repeat that which we've heard.
But there's something, well, wait a minute. There is something about it being said in this holiest of places, on this holiest of days, and it's being heard as well. There is some, for some reason you are allowed to do it then, or the high priest is allowed to do it only then. Only then. So there must be some, if the rabbis could make up a story about this, to fill in what we're not told in the Torah about why this would be allowed. It would, I could make up a story that on this one day, it somehow brings us closer to Hashem, but even though we've heard it, it will disappear from our minds afterwards, and it will not be spoken again for another year. I mean, I could make a rabbi story like that.
And I could accept that if in fact there was a rabbi story, but the fact is that I'm very upset by this because I didn't know this before. I just assumed, silly me, I just thought that the Kohen Gadol taught his successor the word, and they're the only ones that knew it.
Just because it was heard by the Jews doesn't mean they know it. You see, this story, if the rabbi made it up, the story could be, so that it was heard by their hearts, not their ears. You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying.
There are so many places in the Bible where the scripture is not complete. And we have filled in, like why we got the Ten Commandments. And then the story about how God had gone to other nations, asked them, they all said no. He came to the Jews, and they said yes. We will, whatever, we will hear and we will do. And that's a rabbinical story to fill in why we are the chosen people and we alone got the Ten Commandments. Maybe if there could have been a rabbinical story to enlighten us on this situation, we could understand better. And I'm making one up. I'm not a rabbi, but I'm just making up what might be filling in those missing places to help us understand this. I'm not the rabbi. You're right, Dina. I mean, you don't have to take my story.
I just kind of look at that. I mean, I understand what everybody is saying, but I just look at that and my head just says to me, this is the holiest person around. I would never question this or even wonder about it because to me that fits the setting and I would have no questions why. I just don't, I don't know that it has to be questioned.
So according to...
For the 4 reasons that you stated.
According to templeinstitute.org, on Yom Kippur the holy name was said 10 times during the service. 3 of those times was during the confession. We have the 3 confessions during the Avodah service. And he would say the name, and then everyone would respond, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Voed. Blessed be the name of God's glorious kingdom forever and ever. And they would prostrate themselves.
Right. Okay. So they obviously heard it.
Everyone who was in the court, apparently. I may have been wrong about... I thought I heard a story that it was somehow miraculously amplified so everyone could hear it. But according to this...
Who's in the court?
Anyone who came, Jews.
Oh, I thought maybe just the priests or
No,
whatever.
so we actually read in the Avodah service, and the Kohanim and the people standing in the courtyard, when they would hear the glorious, awesome name, the ineffable one, emanating from the Kohen Gadol's mouth, in holiness and purity, they would kneel and prostrate themselves, give thanks, and say, "Blessed is the name of God's glorious kingdom for all eternity." That's actually the text from the Avodah service.
Right.
So it describes it happening right there. It happened at the break of dawn. Yada, yada, yada.
I guess this shoots down your theory, David.
Huh.
All right, well.
Interesting.
That was exciting.
Shall
Okay.
we go on?
Yeah.
3 pilgrimage festivals shall you celebrate for me during the year. So
And
we've
they
got
are...
So they've got the for me,
Right.
which Lenore talked to us about before.
Does yours talk? Oh, there's another chapter in then, 15.
The text says the text says for me because it is the custom of idolaters to sacrifice at certain specific times during the year. The Israelites are told to do the same, but for me.
Right, which is what Lenore read to us before.
Yep.
Okay, so you shall observe the festival of matzah. 7 days shall you eat, well, matzah, so according to this book, as I have commanded you at the appointed time of the month of springtime, for in it you left Egypt. You shall not be seen before me empty-handed. You don't want me to do all 3 chagim, do you?
No, it's okay. So So this is an important piece. It starts with Pesach, with Passover, in the month of Aviv, the springtime month. So that's the first holiday of the Jewish year. I know we all think Rosh Hashanah is, but remember there are 4 New Years.
Right.
And the first of Nisan is technically the beginning of the calendar year. And so Passover is actually the first holiday of the year. And don't come before me empty-handed means you have to bring sacrifices. Listen to this. Oh, this is beautiful. Where it says, none shall appear before me empty-handed. Wait, let me look at the Hebrew. Lo yira'u panai rekam. This is Ibn Ezra. He says, it could be read, this verse could be read as, my face shall not be seen if you are empty-handed. That's a really beautiful translation. So it's not, don't appear before me empty-handed. It's if you come and you're not prepared, you won't be able to see me.
Sforno gives a reason why this verse follows the preceding one that we were reading. Keep a feast to me. He stresses the word li, to me, indicating to me alone, to counteract the tendency at the time in history for people to associate deities with one another and worship a variety of gods. So it goes back to the preceding one where we were worried about
that
the
same
name
that Lenore read to us, yeah.
And you know I think we're seeing a couple of things going on here. One is the Israelite religion beginning to take on practices of surrounding tribes. Worshiping at specific times during the harvest. That was not unique to Israel. Lots of different tribes and nations did that. What's different here is 2 things. Number one is that although it's tied to the harvest, the reason for the celebration is not the harvest. The reason for the celebration is getting out of Egypt. That's number one. And number 2, the other thing that's different is God says, yes, we're doing what those other folks did, but this is for me. Right, which is what we've said. So on the one hand, they're searching. The text seems to be allowing the Israelites to slowly mimic practices of other nations, but they're desperately trying to hold on to their uniqueness at the same time.
Huh. So these
are God's commandments, right?
Say that again, Lenore.
These are God's commandments.
Yeah.
And when you say they're trying to hold on, who's the they?
The Israelite. Well, the Israelites, but in this case, I really should say God. You're right. It's not really a they. God is allowing them to have these harvest festivals, but in the process of doing so, God is making a lot of restrictions. You know, I've said a bunch of times that the Torah to me is just a book of concessions. That God makes a bunch of rules, we break them, and then God concedes and says, all right, fine, just do it your way. But along the way, every time God concedes, God says, do it your way, but. Right? So this, I think, is an example of it. This is a do it your way. You can have your harvest festivals like all the other nations, but they are for me. You know, but this harvest festival is not so much a celebration of the first fruits of spring as much as it is about your exodus from Egypt. So
okay.
God is setting them aside, letting them know that this will go on, but that you're going to be different.
You could do it, but do it my way. Go ahead, Dina.
Eitz Chaim has quite a few comments that are very interesting that kind of fill out what we've been talking about. It says, that's talking about all three festivals, 14 through 17. These verses present the three agricultural festivals that form the core of Israel's sacred calendar. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and the Pesach sacrifice do not appear here because they are not rooted in the life of the soil.
Wait,
Israel's
Pesach sacrifice?
Pesach sacrifice. I'll back to
This
get
is
back
Chag
to that.
HaMatzot. This is not
Right,
Pesach.
this is Chag HaMatzot, right.
Right.
Israel's festivals are distinctive because they're not rooted in the life of the soil. Israel's festivals are distinctive in being both celebrations of history and acknowledgments of God's bounty. Thus, for example, the commemoration of the Exodus is interwoven with agricultural elements. Each festival is called Chag, a term that indicates that the festival involves an obligatory pilgrimage to a sanctuary. The same meaning endures in the Muslim institution of the Hajj, the religious duty to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. I'd never made that connection before.
Neither did I. Neither did I.
Hag and the Hajj, yeah, that's right.
The sequence of festivals listed here conforms to the rule of 12.2 that the religious year begins with the spring. So then it goes on to say three times the Shalosh Regalim, synonymous with Shalosh Pa'amim in verse 17, which we're coming up to. In post-biblical Hebrew, Shalosh Regalim began to signify the three pilgrimage festivals. The singular of Regalim is regel, literally foot. It became interchangeable with Chag, festival, and came to be used for a pilgrimage in general. So I thought that was interesting. And then the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which did my book call it? It called it the Festival of Matzahs. That is the beginning of the barley harvest. Pesach Day, with the offering of the Paschal Lamb on the eve of the 14th of the month, is not mentioned here because it was not originally celebrated as an agricultural festival.
Right. So two things. So first of all, just an interesting tidbit. There's another day in the Jewish year that's called a Chag that you would not think is called a Chag that we just had. Anyone want to take a guess?
Just had in the past week?
Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is called a Chag because the tradition is that, even though it's the saddest day of the year, because the tradition is that the Messiah is going to be born on Tisha B'Av, and when that happens, Tisha B'Av will turn into I don't know if it'll be a pilgrimage festival, but it'll turn into a full-fledged holiday, a full-fledged Chag.
Wow.
So the other thing, Dina, is that's so important, and I'm so glad you read that, and I messed it up when I said Passover before, is that you're right. Passover and Chag HaMatzot are two completely separate holidays that we have smushed together today.
Right.
Passover is just the evening. It's first Seder, that's all it is. The 7 days, that's Chag HaMatzot, the festival of the matzahs. And so
right,
here we only have the matzah thing.
Right, because we technically really can't observe Pesach.
Right.
I mean, we do a Seder, but to commemorate it, but we can't do it. We can't observe it.
Right.
So. Okay, anything else on Chag HaMatzot?
I don't think so, but I have to go to the restroom, so you all keep going. Sorry.
Okay, Dina, take it away.
Dina, I have a question.
Yes.
Why? Go back and tell me why you say we can't observe it.
Because it's a sacrifice. Pesach is a sacrifice. It was the Israelites did it the last night before they left Egypt. They sacrificed the lamb.
Yeah.
And the next year they were commanded to commemorate it with a sacrifice. But now that the temple's gone, we can't do sacrifices.
Oh, right.
So we commemorate it with that first Seder.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But we can't really practice it.
Okay.
I was not doing a wave here. I was showing the blood of the sacrificial lamb going over the
Okay, across the lintel. Okay.
There's no blood around.
I just didn't want you to think it was a football wave
Yeah.
or Olympic game wave or something.
Okay. So 16, and the festival of the harvest of the first fruits of your labor that you sow in the field, and the festival of the ingathering at the close of the year when you gather in your work from the field.
Okay, hold on. Break that down for me. The festival of the harvest of the first fruits of your
That's
labor.
Shavuot.
The first.
Okay. And then the festival of the
And then the
ingathering.
ingathering, which is what we really think of as the harvest, is Sukkot.
Okay, okay. So that's the close of the year. Isn't that it? But we do Sukkot after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, don't we?
But it's the close of the agricultural year.
Yeah, agriculture. Yes,
We're
thank you.
doing agricultural observances
Right,
here.
right. Thank you.
Because at the close of the year when you gather in your work from the field.
Right. Yeah, I'm
What's
just reading.
I'm sorry. The Feast of the Harvest. What's Feast of the Harvest and Feast of the Ingathering? What's the difference in how they're celebrating?
Well, the Feast of the Harvest, if you notice in your commentary, Lenore, it says it's better known as the Feast of Weeks. That's Shavuot. That's, 7 weeks after Pesach.
Right.
Okay?
So why are they calling it? Okay.
It might be, that might be like the barley harvest, because Pesach starts with the barley. So I don't know if that's the end of that. I don't know. Rabbi, you're back. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So the translation is the Feast of Harvest and the Feast of Ingathering. Harvest, they're calling harvest. Harvest is what they're using for Shavuot,
Mm-hmm.
and then ingathering for Sukkot.
Yep.
So what are we harvesting at?
The Ingathering.
Wheat.
Which one is wheat?
Wheat is Shavuot, and fruits and vegetables are Sukkot.
Okay.
Yeah, grain offerings and first fruits, it says.
From the field.
Also, I think Sukkot is vegetables primarily. All summer long, the produce stays in the field to dry out. At the time of the Feast of Tabernacles, when the rainy season begins, they bring it indoors.
Okay.
The choice, if you go to choice of fruits for your soil, the house of the Lord.
Yeah, grain, wine, oil. Wait. That's different. Hold on.
When you read the sentence of 19, choice
19.
we were just reading what, 17?
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even do 17.
16.
We just did 16.
Was it talking about the first fruits of the soil shall bring to the house of the Lord? I wondered if the fruits were more important or something.
Okay, so the Feast of Harvest is the first fruits of the wheat harvest. That's what that is. That's Shavuot. And the Feast of Ingathering in Tishrei when the agricultural year concludes, for in the following month Cheshvan planting begins again.
They were busy farmers.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on 16? Should we move on?
Yeah, let's keep going.
3 times during the year shall all your men folk appear before the Lord Hashem. Okay, so The passages in Deuteronomy that include women and children among those who are to appear before the Lord represent a later practice.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The passages in Deuteronomy that include women and children among those who are to appear before the Lord represent a later practice.
Ah, okay. So it started with all the men, and then the women and children were added later.
Right.
Yeah, it says here, those who are of age to be bound by the commandments.
So that's
The males must go on these pilgrimages like a slave going to his master.
Zechuracha?
Yeah, kol zechurcha. A zachar is a son, or a
Okay.
male. Zachar is male.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to this at all, but is that because the men did most of the hard work in the field? Is that why the men are singled out mostly?
I don't know. According to Ibn Ezra, it seems to be not that at all. It seems to be because they are bound by time-bound commandments.
By what?
Time-bound commandments.
Oh.
So that's why he says they have to go.
It would represent a real hardship to require women to make 3 pilgrimage festivals with all of their kids.
Yeah.
Mostly it's the men working out there.
Yeah, I suppose. And it's their fruits because they own everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. You're right. Because the men also technically own the land, it is their fruits to bring.
Well, no, they don't own the land.
No, you're right. God owns the land.
God owns the land.
Right.
But it's
the work of their hands.
The work of their hands means that now they own the harvest.
Right. It's a little bit like when you do a wedding, the groom has to own the ring that he gives the bride, and the bride has to own the ring that she gives the groom. So there's this silly little legal fiction that we do where I give as an unconditional gift the ring to each of them so that they actually can own it, because if you can't give something if you don't own it.
Okay.
And if the groom bought both of the rings, then the bride can't technically give it to the groom because she doesn't own it. So this reminds me of that.
Okay.
Does the groom give it to you? And then
I take both of them and then
But he has to give it to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want you to.
You don't want me to what?
I don't want you to take it from him if he owns it. I want him to give it to you so you can give it back.
So she has to give hers.
Okay.
Anything else?
Unlike verse 14, this verse makes clear that the festivals cannot be celebrated in whatever countries they may be living. I guess that means, that's interesting, I guess that means that in antiquity, if you could not make pilgrimage, you didn't celebrate the holidays.
But
right?
the celebration of the holiday was the pilgrimage.
Right, but what I'm saying
is sacrifices.
So I guess what I'm saying is, yes, I guess what I'm saying though is that the women who stayed behind, and even men, infirmed men who stayed behind, they didn't have Pesach, Shavuot, or Sukkot. Sorry, Chag HaMatzot, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Because, like you said, the celebration is the pilgrimage and the sacrifice.
Wait. So you're saying that because the women didn't go, they didn't celebrate Chag HaMatzot?
I'm saying that according to Abarbanel, the festivals cannot be celebrated in whatever countries they may be living. And the way I'm reading that is they can only be celebrated in Israel because you can make a festival, you can make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem.
Oh.
So the
And
women
I
didn't have to
wonder,
clean the house and change all the dishes.
exactly. So I'm wondering if until the destruction of the temple, and I don't know this, I'm wondering it, if until the destruction of the temple, maybe you only celebrated these if you could make a pilgrimage.
Hmm.
I don't know.
That's very interesting. So after the destruction of the temple, celebrating these holidays, celebrating these chagim in the diaspora became almost a requirement.
Right, because the celebration is no longer bringing the sacrifice. Now the celebration
Right.
is remembering the sacrifice,
Right.
enacting the sacrifice.
So they're no longer hogs.
No, they are.
They're called chag, but they're not regalim.
Right. We still call them the regalim, but technically they're not.
Right.
Why?
Right.
So we hold on to the name regalim because
Right.
we're hopeful that the third temple will be built, and then we'll all be able to make pilgrimage again.
Yeah.
Well, some people are hopeful.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It seems to me that as a people, we have evolved beyond sacrifice.
Really?
And I can really, what's the word? I can't even think of the word I want. One would hope that Hashem has evolved beyond sacrifice.
But
Right.
temple could come to be not an edifice somewhere. It could become the world. The temple
Well,
could
sure. If you think though about the people who really want to rebuild the third temple, that's not what they're imagining. They're imagining an edifice. But yeah, in the mystical sense, absolutely.
Yeah.
The whole world becomes a temple. In the mystical sense, the whole world already is a temple.
be. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I've lost something.
All right, shall we read another verse?
Okay. You shall not offer the blood of my feast offering upon leavened bread, nor may the fat of my festive offering remain overnight until morning.
Festal offering?
Okay. It is forbidden to slaughter the Pesach offering until the afternoon of the 14th of Nisan, when all the chametz has been destroyed.
All right, so wait a second. So now we've got Passover all of a sudden, right? We've now added a holiday, right? So for Chag HaMatzot, you have to get rid of all the leavened stuff, which happens before the 14th. Now we have the 14th, and it's Passover time.
Right. One who brings the offering with chametz still in his possession is in violation of the commandment. But you're right, because
What's the fat of my festal offering?
Among the commandments associated with the pilgrimage festival is that everyone bring a chagigah, which is a peace offering brought in celebration of the festival. Although the sacrificial service must be done during the day, the entire night is valid for the burning of the sacrificial pots, the fats, on the altar. Our verse teaches that if the fats are not placed upon the altar before dawn, they become invalid.
So I think that where the blood of my sacrifice and the fat of my festival offering, those are the same thing.
Okay.
No.
It's the same offering, I think. They're both the Pesach offering, according to Rashba.
Oh, right. But you can't make the offering if you haven't cleared out all the chametz, and you have to have all the fats and stuff burned before dawn,
Absolutely.
or at least set to fire before dawn.
Right. Right, and you can start at noon, which of course is not really noon. It's rabbinic noon, because there are rabbinic hours. When they say noon, they don't mean 12 o'clock. They mean midday, halfway through the day. That's when you can start I guess or preparing your sacrifice.
Choice of your fruits of your soil into the house of the Lord.
But let's get back to
Oh, let's go forward.
this is a third, this is a fourth observance.
Yeah. It is. And by the way, there's a question here about why does it say the blood of my sacrifice? It should have just said my sacrifice. And they say that because blood is not sacrificed. It says the word blood occurs in this verse to include the priest who sprinkles the blood among those who may not own leaven at the moment of slaughter. It's an abbreviated verse really meaning you shall not offer my sacrifice or sprinkle its blood while owning anything leavened.
Oh, okay.
But you're right, Dina. This really, with no fanfare at all, we're sort of getting the fourth holiday here, the Passover holiday. But they're linking it intimately with Chag HaMatzot. It's being introduced by way of a linkage to Chag HaMatzot and not being able to have leavened goods.
It's interesting that in all the books that we're all using, nobody's got a comment on the fact that this is separate from Chag HaMatzot.
Yeah. Yeah. We go right from 3 times a year to Passover.
Yeah.
After we've already done three pilgrimage festivals.
Right.
And then we're told to come, the males have to come 3 times a year, and then the Pesach offering.
It's out of order. I mean, it makes sense that you would lump the 3 festivals together, 3 pilgrimages together. It makes sense that you would use that as a literary unit.
Right.
But it is strange that Passover is now out of order. It would make more sense, maybe, if this whole section was before the 3 festivals, since it really is the first. It's even before Chag HaMatzot.
All right. But let's take a look at the construction too. It starts with 14. 3 pilgrimage festivals shall you celebrate for me during the year. And then 17 goes on, 3 times during the year shall all your menfolk appear before the Lord.
Yeah.
So does that make it a unit because it starts and ends with 3 times you have to come?
Yes. Beautiful. I think it does.
So this shall not offer this Pesach offering doesn't. It's almost like it's not included in that.
No, I agree. It's not included in that. It's outside of the unit. I agree. And all I was suggesting is it would have made a little more sense, I think. In some ways, it would have made a little more sense to put this before the unit because it comes chronologically before the unit. But I think the reason it didn't is because you can't do the Pesach sacrifice until you've cleaned for Chag HaMatzot. And so they need to introduce Chag HaMatzot, which is a part of that larger unit, before you can introduce Passover.
But why not put the 3 times during the year shall all your menfolk appear after that verse?
Because it's not part of the unit. It's not part of the 3 festivals.
It's part of the 3 times you have to appear before the Lord.
No, it's not.
You're saying
Pesach is? Is that what you're saying? Pesach is one of the 3 times?
Well, okay, so let's talk about where can you make the Pesach offering, the Pesach sacrifice?
Anywhere. You make it in your own home, I think.
Okay, all right, then that's why it doesn't belong in that unit. It's just
Right.
interesting that it comes right after 3 times shall all your menfolk appear before the Lord.
Right. I think that the Passover sacrifice is made individually at home.
Well, the original one was.
Yeah. And it's not, Passover itself is not a what do you call it, a pilgrimage festival. Matzot is.
Right.
Yeah.
Where is it? Is it in the Pesach story? Is it in the Passover story that we're told that we're going to commemorate it the next year?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're obviously not at the temple. We're in the wilderness.
Right.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that kind of flows a little better for me.
All right, Chavrei. So we'll stop at verse 19.
Been waiting for us to get to the boil a kid in his mother's milk.
They're waiting for us. It's good enough waiting for us. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you.
You too.
Well,
Bye, everybody.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.